We know what players are stars on their respective teams heading into each NFL season, and most of the times what teams are going to contend for the Super Bowl. However, what we don't know heading into every NFL season is how much rookies are going to impact a team's year and how much they step up or in some cases exceed the role they have. A perfect example of this happened in 2019 with Nick Bosa exceeding the expectations he had on him heading into the year, and he was a big reason why the 49ers went from the second overall pick to the second team in the Super Bowl. In today's video, we're going to discuss rookies that need to step up in order for their team to succeed and to make deep playoff runs. And to be clear, while I do think Joe Burrow leads the Bengals to more than 2 wins, I don't think there's any way as a rookie he leads that roster to a 13-3 record and has something absurd like 37 passing touchdowns. It's just not realistic. So while Burrow does need to step up for them to succeed in the long run, it's just not going to happen in that manner in 2020. Now before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we start today's video with what was at the time one of the most controversial picks in the draft, in Eagles wide receiver Jaylen Reger. Eagles fans were very upset because of the player that was drafted directly after him, which was when the Vikings selected Justin Jefferson. However, for the purpose of this video, the Eagles need Reger to step up immediately. Philadelphia in 2019 had no 1,000-yard wide receivers and had players like Greg Ward, Nelson Aguilar, and JJ Arcega-Whiteside catching passes from quarterback Carson Wentz. Another thing Philly needs in 2020 is of course to stay healthy, but a big reason they'll need Reger to step up is for someone for Carson to consistently throw the ball to. Of course the Eagles have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, but he will need a legit number 1 weapon, and I do think Reger, despite being the 4th receiver drafted, can put up the best numbers of any rookie receiver in year number 1. He will receive a lot of targets, and no disrespect to Jerry Jeudy, but he probably will not receive anywhere close to the targets Reger will, and CeeDee Lamb probably won't either. The Eagles roster isn't that bad and are just 3 years removed from a Super Bowl title, and if Reger steps up and becomes a 70-catch, 1,000-yard receiver in year 1, who knows how good they could be. They will have a lot of production coming from second-year running back Miles Sanders, and of course the 2 tight ends in Ertz and Goddard as they were mentioned, but they will need a receiver to step up in 2020, and if Reger does that for Philly, then the sky is the limit for this team. Next is Falcons first-round pick AJ Terrell. Terrell was a late first to early second-round prospect, and it was a little bit of a surprise when the Falcons took him at 16 overall to say the least. Terrell will have to step up big in his rookie season if the Falcons want to go far, as whether people realize this or not, their window to win a Super Bowl with their current roster is very much closing. Matt Ryan is 35 and Julio Jones is 31, and they simply won't make it there with Matt Schaub or a rookie in the next few years. Because of Ryan getting up there in age, and with what I would say a few years left of good to elite play in him, he will need the defense to step up big in his last 4 to 5 or even 6 years in the NFL. Terrell is in the best division in football wide receiver wise, as he will get to go against Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley every day in practice, and for 6 games of the 16 the Falcons play every year, we'll get to go against DJ Moore, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. For the Falcons to do anything, Terrell needs to prove his worth, and relatively early, because, and Matt Ryan would never say this publicly, but he needs Terrell and the defense to play their part, so he doesn't have to have the responsibility of putting up 40 points in every division game. And this isn't me saying Terrell needs to become the next Jalen Ramsey or Richard Sherman of the early 2010s, he just needs to be an above average starting corner where the Falcons don't have liabilities as corners, as playing against Tom Brady and Drew Brees 4 times per year will certainly expose their weaknesses on defense. For his own career's sake, of course, and the Falcons potentially making a deep postseason run, because remember, they have a former MVP and one of the best receivers of the generation on offense, which makes this possible, AJ Terrell will need to step up in year 1. And next is Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Justin comes to the Vikings after a 2019 season at LSU in which he had 111 catches, over 1,500 yards, and 18 touchdowns. He is in a more fortunate situation than most, as he will be on the same offense as players like Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, and Irv Smith. He doesn't need to duplicate the numbers he put up in his final season at LSU, but he does need to play a decent role. He is, whether this is fair or not, replacing Trayvon Diggs, and that is no small thing to do, as Diggs was a 2-time 1,000-yard wide receiver and was someone defenses always had to account for. Trayvon had over 1,100 yards in his final season in Minnesota, but that was with Adam Thielen being hurt for the majority of the year. If Thielen is healthy for the majority of 2020, like he is expected to be, then this takes a lot of pressure off of Justin, but he should still come in with expectations to be a good starting NFL wide receiver. He needs to be the X factor on the Vikings offense, where if all else fails, then go to him. One would have to think Justin will be receiving a lot of one-on-ones with the defense, having to account for a lot of other weapons, and Justin is coming from the SEC. If he does step up and become even a 60-catch, 700-yard rookie, then the sky is the limit for this team. The Vikings made it to the divisional round of the playoffs last year without Thielen for a lot of the year, and while Jefferson won't be Diggs in year 1, he can still be a solid number 2 wide receiver. He was a first-round pick for a reason. A lot of Jefferson needing to step up will be to take the pressure off of everyone else in the offense. Jefferson and Thielen doesn't quite have the ring to it as Diggs and Thielen or Thielen and Diggs, but those two for the next few years can wreak havoc on opposing defenses and hopefully bring the Twin Cities a ring while they're at it. And next is Cowboys rookie corner Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon was selected in the second round with wide receiver CeeDee Lamb being the Cowboys' first pick. Diggs is in a situation similar to AJ Terrell of the Falcons, where the offense on his team is very good. Dallas's offense has players like Dak, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CD of course, Tyron Smith, and Zach Martin. They can go toe-to-toe with anybody when it comes to scoring, and they will need their defense to step up in 2020 due to this. This is where Diggs' play comes in, as Dallas lost Byron Jones to free agency, and someone will have to fill the void he left. The Cowboys, like Atlanta with Terrell, need him to step up in 2020 because they have full intentions on going deep into the playoffs this year. And whether you watching this video think they will or not is an entirely different story because the Cowboys are geared up for a postseason run. Now because of this, they need Trayvon to do well in order for their team to succeed down the stretch of the season. He is fortunate to have a lesser division of receivers than AJ Terrell, but make no mistake, he will still be going up against some solid players in Darius Slayton, Terry McLaurin, and Jaylen Reger. Now the benefit for Trayvon is I would imagine him and his brother Stephon have been going against each other for a while, and Stephon has probably been in his ear about what receivers at the professional level try to do and what they look for to get open. Whether it be how the corner's hips are positioned or where his eyes are at the beginning of the play, Stephon has been helping his younger brother out, and I am sure of it. The Cowboys need him to step up in 2020 because if he doesn't, and the rest of the defense doesn't for that matter, we could be looking at shootout after shootout for the Cowboys this year. Trayvon is the only second round pick I have in this video, and he will play a bigger role than most second rounders do. If he becomes an average corner to a good corner, which certainly is possible, then the Cowboys would make a deep postseason run as early as this year. Next, and this may be surprising, but Javon Kinlow of the 49ers. The 49ers traded defensive lineman DeForest Buckner to the Colts and essentially drafted his replacement in Kinlow. Javon was compared to him throughout the draft process, and while a lot of people understand that, what a lot of the media and analysts haven't been saying is Kinlow won't be that player his rookie year. Buckner is a great defensive lineman, and while with Kinlaw's story, I do think he will become a great defensive lineman over time, that doesn't mean he will necessarily be one in year number 1. And I think the 49ers defense is more than here to stay, but I think a fair question to ask is, how much of the 49ers 2019 success was because of Buckner and Bosa playing together? What happens when one is taken away from the other? And because of this, I don't think it will be a surprise when the 49ers don't win as many games this year as they did last. 13 wins in consecutive years is extremely tough to do, and losing Debo for at least a few games doesn't help either. Because of all this going on, the 49ers will need Kinlaw to step up in year 1 more than they realize. Now what I'm saying about the 49ers, to be clear, is they probably will regress some due to how high of a floor they set for themselves going forward. And what I'm not saying is because of the loss of Buckner and Debo going out for maybe a month, they will go 3-13 and be in the top 5 selecting again. I'm not saying that at all. They are a great team, but they had a lot of unsung heroes in 2019. For them to get back to the Super Bowl in 2020, they will need some more unsung heroes, and Kinlaw will have to be one of them. He probably won't register a lot of sacks or tackles for loss, or overall just be good statistically, but he will have a good impact and will certainly need to step up for the 49ers to play in Super Bowl 55. And we wrap today's video up in Los Angeles to discuss linebacker Kenneth Murray. The Chargers overall weren't as bad as their record suggested in 2019, as they, despite going 5-11, gave up just 8 more points than they scored, and for comparison, the Texans went 10-6 and gave up 7 more points than they scored. The Chargers were in mostly every game, but a big reason Kenneth Murray needs to step up is this defense has a chance to be one of the best in the league if he does. They created the least amount of turnovers in the NFL last year with just 14, and a lot of that, but not all of it, can be attributed to Derwin James only playing in 5 games. This defense has playmakers everywhere, with of course Derwin, one of the most underrated pass rushers in the league in Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, and one of the most underrated corners in the league in Casey Hayward. I don't think the Chargers can compete with Kansas City, to be clear, but I think if they have adequate quarterback play this year, they can definitely finish in the top 7 seeds of the AFC and make some noise in the playoffs. If this defense can create turnovers at even an average rate, then the Chargers could easily go 10-6 or 9-7 and cause fits for somebody in the playoffs like they did in 2018 with the Ravens. A big part of that will be Kenneth Murray stepping up and being the man in the middle of the defense, and for a linebacker, he walks into a great situation with elite players everywhere in that defense. If he steps up and becomes the guy for the next decade, then Chargers could be looking at an AFC divisional round appearance and causing problems for the rest of the AFC. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton. If you ever have a video suggestion, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.